What really happens when someone takes their final breath? Not in theory, but in truth. Not as a concept, but as a crossing, a flicker of light, a whisper in the dark, a doorway that silently opens to a realm beyond sight. Is it a return, a beginning, or a fading echo? These questions have lingered for centuries, in sacred texts, in dreams, and in the quiet moments we rarely speak aloud. And today, we open that door together, not just with facts, but with reverence, through science, stories, and the language of the soul. Welcome to the Eye of Wisdom, where we explore what lies beneath the surface of life and what might await beyond it. If you've ever quietly wondered what lies beyond, this is a space for you. Like, share, and subscribe to walk this path with us. So now, take a deep breath. Let your body soften. Let your soul be still. And come with us as we gently explore what might lie beyond the final breath. Across cultures, across continents, across centuries, one question echoes through the human heart. What happens when a life comes to its end? In a 2014 survey in the United Kingdom, nearly 60% of participants said they believed some part of a person continues after death. In the United States, a country deeply shaped by faith, a Pew Research study revealed that 72% of people believe in heaven, described as a place where those who lived righteously experience eternal joy. Meanwhile, 54% believe in hell, a place of punishment for those who died unrepentant. But beyond these definitions lies something deeper, a collective longing to understand what cannot be seen. Heaven is often pictured as a realm above the clouds, a soft, radiant world filled with peace, reunion, and light. Hell, by contrast, is imagined as a realm of fire and shadow, a place of anguish and endless separation. Then there is the middle space, a liminal realm where lost souls wander, searching for meaning, redemption, or release. These visions vary across cultures and belief systems, yet they all reflect something deeply human: the ache to make sense of what lies beyond the veil. Like mirrors held up to our fears and hopes, these beliefs speak not only of death, but of how we see life, justice, love, and forgiveness. And then, there are those who've stood at the threshold. Near-death experiences, while not always identical, often carry uncanny similarities. People speak of moving through tunnels, of being lifted above their own bodies, of witnessing their surroundings with unusual clarity. Some describe meeting a presence, not always seen, but deeply felt, an overwhelming sense of peace, a voice without words that seemed to say, "You're not alone. You're safe now." Others speak of light, not just physical light, but something that felt alive, welcoming, healing, a love that needed no explanation. Of course, not everyone experiences these things. Some speak of emptiness, of blackness, of nothing at all. But whether it's vivid or silent, peaceful or still, standing that close to the edge changes something. It softens the way we see the world. It makes us question the temporary. It reminds us that perhaps this life is not the full story. And so, we listen to the whispers, to the fragments of memory, to the voices that return and say, there is more than we can understand. Because if even a small part of what they describe is true, then the end is not an end at all. It is a doorway. And every heartbeat is a step toward it. But what happens when there is no return? When breath ceases and something else quietly begins? What actually happens when the heart no longer beats and the brain grows quiet. In medical terms, this moment is called biological death. The pulse disappears, the brain waves flatten, the systems that once worked in perfect harmony fall still. To the eyes, it may seem like everything has ended, but to the soul, it may be the beginning of something unspoken. For those standing nearby, there's often a profound stillness, not only in the room, but in the air itself, as if something has left or passed through. The body, now uninhabited, begins a gentle unraveling. The muscles soften, the limbs loosen, the breath no longer comes, and over the next hours, subtle changes unfold. The temperature begins to drop, the skin begins to pale, and the process of returning quietly begins. Sometimes faint sounds escape, not voices but soft shifts of air, a sigh, a groan, not because someone is coming back, but because the body, like a closing book, makes small noises as its pages settle. There may be small spasms, reflexes of muscles letting go. These are not signs of life, they are echoes, like a bell still ringing after the hand has pulled away. To those unprepared, it can feel unsettling, but to those who understand, it is natural, gentle, even beautiful in its honesty. The body was never meant to last forever. It was a sacred garment, a temporary home. And now it begins its return to the earth. Cells break down, bacteria awaken, not as invaders, but as part of a sacred cycle. Over time, the elements of the body merge with the soil, the wind, the rain. The same earth that once fed us now receives us back. Like a leaf drifting from a tree in autumn, the body doesn't disappear. It transforms. Its shape may vanish, but its essence becomes part of everything. For some, this image brings peace, a sense of closure, a reminder that nature holds us even in death. But of course, not everyone finds comfort in the body's decay, because what most hearts wonder is not about the shell, but about what might still remain. And this brings us to the space between, the thin, liminal threshold between the last breath and whatever may follow. Here, in this space, countless souls have spoken of strange awareness. Though their bodies had stopped, they described a sense of floating, of watching, of being aware without pain. Some described moving through a tunnel, not one made of walls, but of light, soft, endless, warm. On the other side, a presence, not always seen, but deeply felt. A presence that knew everything and still loved completely. There are stories of life flashing before them, not like a movie, but as a wave of understanding. Moments once forgotten, now lit with meaning. A chance to see not what we did, but how it impacted those around us. There are those who speak of voices, not external, but within. A voice that simply said, "You can go back or continue." And in those moments, choice was sacred. But not all speak of light. Some speak of darkness, a blank space, a silent void, not frightening but empty, as if existence had paused and the soul waited. What's striking isn't that every story is the same. It's that almost none of them speak of fear. There is confusion, stillness, wonder, but rarely panic, rarely terror. Perhaps what awaits is not an end, but a re-entry, a remembering, a reunion with something we forgot we were always part of. And if that is true, if the soul is more than this breath, more than this name, more than this moment, then what we call death might simply be a return. What is the soul? Where does it go? And what truth might it carry from one life to the next? Across time and thought, across philosophy and faith, the question of the soul has stirred countless hearts. René Descartes once believed that the soul and the body were two separate entities, intertwined for a time, but ultimately destined to part. To him, the soul was the thinker, the feeler, the essence untouched by decay. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of eternal recurrence, the idea that all existence endlessly loops through time, playing itself again and again. If true, it means we do not simply die, we return to the same choices, the same joys, the same lessons, until we awaken within the pattern. In Buddhist teachings, life is a wheel, birth, death, rebirth, bound together by karma, the energy of our actions. But this cycle, called samsara, is not a trap, it's a journey, and those who reach deep understanding, who let go of attachment and awaken to truth, can step beyond it, into peace, into freedom, into what some call nirvana. The wheel turns, again and again, until one day the soul remembers it can walk away. But perhaps the most important question is not what happens after a life ends, but how are we living this one? How are we speaking, loving, forgiving? How are we listening to the quiet voice inside that tells us when something feels off or when something is deeply right? To live meaningfully is not to live without pain. It is to live with awareness, to leave fewer regrets, to offer more kindness, to choose truth over comfort, and presence over distraction. Because perhaps the soul does carry something forward, not our possessions, not our titles, but our essence. And if there is a crossing ahead, a doorway, a return, a new beginning, then how we walk now shapes what meets us on the other side. Enlightenment is not a destination. It is how we move through this moment. With honesty, with care, with love that leaves no debt behind. And maybe, just maybe, that's how the soul becomes light enough to rise. None of us knows for certain what lies beyond, but perhaps the question itself is a doorway. If this opened something within you, a memory, a wonder, a quiet ache, let us know in the comments. And if your soul felt seen here, like and subscribe, so we can continue walking this sacred path together. Until next time, may you live with depth and walk gently between the seen and the unseen.